God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoiseth and Dave Dabbah.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 13 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoiseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I am Dave Dabbah hanging out in Northern California. And as always, we are super excited to talk about the National Football League with you. It feels like, Brad, to me, week number 330 of your 2020-21 National Football League season. This has just been a very bizarre year for the National Football League. Mr. Hoiseth, how the heck are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm looking forward to the weekend. It's been, like you said, it's been a strange week. I remember I was watching the game on Wednesday, of all things. I mean, how often do you get to watch a game on Wednesday afternoon? The Steelers, Ravens, and at the end they said, we just wrapped up the longest week in the history of the NFL because they had started games on Thursday and Thanksgiving, and it went the complete 7 days, and that was very strange watching football on a Wednesday afternoon, but I found it kind of fun. I mean, what else we got to do sitting at home these days? It seems as if things have kind of calmed down a little bit with the COVID stuff this week. I know the Ravens, Cowboys, I think, has been moved to Tuesday now. There seems to be a few less infections. They had some real problems, though, in Baltimore, no question about it. And man, that was a painful lineup to try and watch on Wednesday with the Ravens. I mean, there just wasn't a lot out there. Now I see where RG3 now is out for put on the IR with a hamstring. So they better hope they get Jackson back. Otherwise, that's a team that seems to be imploding quickly.
Yeah, they really do seem to be heading down the wrong side of, if you will, career mountain. That team is definitely heading in the wrong direction for sure. I think when that game was on, Brad, I was like, I was in my home office. I was doing a bunch of work, and then I got an alert that this game was on, and I was like, is the National? Are they just going to ask these two teams to play a doubleheader? Starting the game at the time they started the actual game, and it was so bizarre. It was just, and the whole game was bizarre as well. I mean, I'm not even sure who that backup quarterback was that came in and actually made things, really extraordinarily interesting for those of you that bet on the Steelers, sort of heading into that game. I did want to touch on one quick thing, though, before I had to get this off my chest, before we get into this week's picks, which is I do not in any way now at all trust John Gruden as a head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I want to trust the Raiders. I want to trust John Gruden. I want to believe in Derek Carr. But when you go into Atlanta, who's already on their second head coach of this young or late National Football League season, and you get beat by the Atlanta Falcons 43-6, you can't tell me that that's a player-only performance issue. That is an absolute coaching issue. A coaching staff that has, quite frankly, been together for 3 years now to get beat the way they got beat by the Atlanta Falcons. Brad, seriously, unacceptable, man.
Well, the Raiders are a little inconsistent. They're a young team. But remember what the Falcons did to the Vikings earlier in the year? Remember they just destroyed the Vikings as well?
Yeah.
Maybe the Falcons are a better team than the way they've played. It's just been kind of one of those years. But how could we go without talking at all about what happened to the Denver Broncos last week, who went with a guy that wasn't even a quarterback and completed one pass. He completed two to the other team and one to his own team. How does Vic Fangio and John Elway, how do either one of these guys get out of this season alive? Do they even have an owner right now? I was trying to look it up because I remember their owner died last year, and there seems to be an ongoing court battle for ownership rights to the
Yeah.
Denver Broncos. And because I look at that situation and I go, how would either one of these guys get out of the mess that they're in? I mean, John Elway, for a guy that was such a great quarterback, seems to have no idea what a good quarterback looks like in the year 2020. None.
Yeah.
You look at the list of guys he's had, whether it's Brock Osweiler or some of these guys that they've had playing over the last few years, you just got to wonder what the guy is thinking. And then you got Vic Fangio. You got a team that's completely out of control to a point where the NFL sends home all 4 of their quarterbacks and says, you guys have to play. Regardless, you're going to have to play. So what do? They bring a wide receiver off the practice squad up who had played a little bit of quarterback at Wake Forest in college. And they ask him to go out there and try to play against an NFL defense. And, man, that was some bad football. That was some really bad football.
It's funny. Let's be honest about this for a quick sec as well. If that was a Tom Brady football game, if that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or if that was the Kansas City Chiefs football game where they had all of those COVID related issues with quarterbacks and stuff like that, I guarantee the National Football League would not have made them play. like I guarantee that the NFL would have handled that situation differently if it was a different team. But since it was Denver, and since it was John Elway and Vic Fangio, there's no reason to try to protect that organization because they just don't have anybody there. Look, even the National Football League doesn't believe in them. I mean, there's I think really a handful of other teams where the NFL would have modified the rules. They would have absolutely modified the rules a little bit to allow that team to play.
And I think you hit on something really good because I noticed it in the Wednesday game between the Ravens and the Steelers that the Ravens didn't have a lot of friends out there wearing black and white stripes during that game.
Yeah,
and you got to. And I don't mean to go conspiracy theory or Oliver Stone on you or anything like that, but it just seems like the NFL said, "Hey, man, you guys nearly screwed up everything for everybody here, and you're going to pay a price, whether it's with an extra 15-yard penalty here and there or whatever it is." But there was some pretty ugly football this weekend. Your boy Jared Goff. I mean, man, oh man, that was so hideous.
I love it. Okay, well, we are going to dive into our top 10 National Football League games for week number 13 of your season. Worth actually spending some money on. I promise I will respond to Hoiseth about Goff at some point during today's conversation. One other quick note, if Brad continues to talk about conspiracy theories, do stay tuned and see if a little green alien pops up behind him. On that note, we'll go ahead and pass it over to Brad.
Yeah, and by the way, had a horrible week last week. That was the worst week I've ever had. But again, what I keep telling people, and I've been telling them this for a number of weeks now, and as a result, you and I moved the show all the way back to Friday today.
Yeah.
Do not pick your games early in the week. I mean, last week, Dave and I did the show on Wednesday. We were trying to get something out before Thanksgiving. I would have never taken the Broncos had I known the top 4 quarterbacks were gone. I would have never taken the Vikings had I known Adam Thielen was going to be on the COVID list. So, not to make up excuses or anything, but we've kind of been telling you this all along that, wait till later in the week. We do this show for fun. We hope to give you some good information that you can use if you're a gambler out there. You want to pick games. Wait till later in the week. Wait till you see who's playing and who's not playing.
This is absolutely the year to wait till an hour before game time.
Yeah. Having said that, my first game is Indianapolis at Houston. The Colts are a 3.5-point favorite. In the last 4 weeks, the Colts have faced the Ravens, Titans, Packers, and Titans. And they finally get an easy one this week against Houston on Sunday. Indy's got one of the best defenses in the league. They now face the Texans team without their number one offensive weapon, Will Fuller, who got suspended for 6 games. At the end of the day, we've reached a part of the season now where we'll always trend towards picking a team that has something to play for versus those who do not. 3.5 points didn't seem like a lot to me to give up for a team that's playing for the playoffs. I'll take the Colts, and I'll give up the 3.5 points against the Texans.
So in looking at this game, like, I so want to go with the Texans, Brad. I am so wanting to go with the Texans in this game, but you can't. Do it. Can't, but you can't. I mean, look, without Fuller, they are a dead stick. That is that, he stretches the field. He's the only guy sort of left on that team that doesn't appear to have a hamstring injury. Like, how many hamstring injuries can there be in the in the National Football League this year? Like, I would like to see the average, like the deep stat I really want to see somebody come up with is how many hamstring injuries have there been per year per team? And I guarantee this year there's a lot more that are sort of hidden under the eyes of not wanting to play during the COVID era, which is what I think a lot of this stuff's all about. Well, what does Will need all that performance enhancing drugs for in the first place? Like, he was just trying to get kicked out of the National Football League for the rest of the season and still get paid, Brad. I think I'm willing to bet this was a case where he didn't even do the actual drug test himself. He paid somebody else who was on drugs to do it because he just didn't want to play anymore.
I have a buddy who's one of my big rivals in my fantasy football league, and he had Will Fuller and he had Deshaun Watson on his team.
Yeah.
So he kind of took the double whammy there, and he was in the mix, and he was going to make the playoffs, and now his team is, kind of going up in flames. And his comment to me was, well, it kind of explains why Will Fuller was finally healthy for a year. He was taking performance-enhancing drugs. I mean, because that guy's been dinged up for 4 years straight.
That's so funny. That's so true. So, as you sort of look at this game, Phillip Rivers, the Colts defense, which was, at times during this year, Brad, you were sort of saying they were one of the better defenses in the league. I just don't see the Texans, figuring out how to replace Fuller at this point. I would take the Colts on the road and give up the 3.5. All right. So moving on to my first pick, Mr. Hoiseth, I take you to the beautiful state of Minnesota, for the Jacksonville Jaguars are coming to town, Mr. Hoiseth. And if you're going to pick the Vikings, you have to give up 10.5 points to pick the Vikings in this game. Do I think the Vikings are going to win? Yeah. Do I think they're going to win by 10.5? They give me no confidence in believing that they're going to win by 10.5. It wouldn't surprise me, but I certainly wouldn't bet on the Vikings to win this game by 10.5. Speaking of which, Brad, do we know if Adam Thielen's going to be back?
Yes. Adam Thielen is back, from what I understand. Irv Smith will not be there. Dalvin Cook was a little dinged up during the week, but it looks like he's going to play. Other than that, I don't think there was any other people out there on the Vikings that were affected by it.
Yeah, I mean, still, even with, Adam Thielen back, and as I mentioned, I really think the Vikes are going to win, but I have very little confidence in them covering the spread, so I will take Jacksonville reluctantly.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings, actually. I know this sounds strange. I had a really good run going with the Vikings, and then I got, drilled by the COVID thing last week. I ended up taking the Vikings, and they won, but they didn't cover. But I just think Jacksonville won the first game, right? They haven't won since.
Yeah. And
they seem to be kind of running out of steam. They played hard the first half of the year. They kept some games close. Now they're going to Mike Glennon as their quarterback. There's just not a lot there, and you get a sense that a 1-10 team could very easily become a 1-15 team by just mailing it in the rest of the year. Their rookie running backs had a nice season, but they are terrible at stopping the run, and the Vikings run the ball very well. I think you're going to see both Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison have a big day for the Vikings. And I think I see the Vikings winning by a couple touchdowns. I think they're a far better football team. They're playing for a lot more. They're 5-6. They're really only one game out of a playoff spot right now. And Jacksonville's got nothing to play for. And this is really kind of the last easy game on the schedule for the Vikings. Some would say maybe it's even a trap game that would kind of lend towards your side. But this is the last of a run of what should have been easy games. Of course, they lost one in there. But that's what happens when you're a 5-6 football team. But yeah. I think the Vikings have played better football in recent weeks. The last month and a half, they've actually looked okay on defense at times. The offense now has got the running game going. I think that the young offensive line is starting to play. And I just don't think Jacksonville's got anything to play for. 10.5 seems like a lot of points, but I'm still going to take the Vikings. I say they win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, the thing that sort of scares me about this game is the Jacksonville running game. Well, I don't think they're going to break any big runs. It's a very consistent game. Third highest ranked running back in the game today. And then on the flip side of the ball, and I know this from watching a lot of Minnesota Viking football. When Dalvin Cook starts to get banged up, Brad, like when Dalvin gets banged up, stuff happens to his confidence. He's never quite as quick as he was before. Not as punishing. So it's really, for me, this game's really about what kind of intelligence do you have going into the game. Now, as Brad and I pointed out, we would make these picks right before the start of the game. If you find out that Dalvin Cook is basically 100% healthy and there haven't been any other COVID scares, then I could see going with the Vikes in this one. But as it stands today, and the track record of Dalvin Cook being banged up coming into a game, he's a different running back. It's 60 yards a game when Dalvin Cook is banged up coming into a game. So I am sticking with the. I can't believe I'm doing this, Brad. This could only happen in the year 2020. But I'm sticking with the Jags.
Yeah, but this is a typical Viking fan, Dave. You're a typical Viking fan, and you're just following what the Vikings are doing. Vikings fans they're constantly on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So I can understand you're not having a lot of confidence in them. I get that. I feel the same way about them. I mean, they're just you never quite know what you're going to get with the Vikings. They're never out of a game, but they're never completely closing out a game either.
Hey, but by the way, Brad's roller coaster ride motion can also be used in Hawaii if you're ever at a hulu dance.
All right, so second up on my games is Cleveland at Tennessee. The Titans are a 5.5-point favorite at home. Here's a question for you, Dave. If I told you a team had given up 21 more points than they had scored through 11 games, what would you think their record would be?
Ask the question again, Brad.
Yeah, if through 11 games a team had given up 21 more points than they had scored total for the year, what would you think their record would be?
Yeah.
5-6, something like that,
in the middle of the road.
Yeah, well, the Browns have scored 21 less points than their opponents, and they're 8-3. Which I find a little bit bizarre. Tennessee, on the other hand, also 8-3. They've scored 39 more points than their opponents. That seems a little bit more reasonable. In this game, you have two of the elite running games in the league. Derrick Henry on one side for the Titans, and then of course Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the other side for Cleveland. And this means a lot's going to come down to quarterback play because both these defenses are actually pretty good at defending the run. And the bottom line here is I trust Ryan Tannehill a whole lot more than I trust Baker Mayfield. The Titans are starting to look a lot more like the Titans of 2019 in recent weeks. They're getting that thing starting to get that thing cranked up. They've figured out the running game a little bit. In the past 4 weeks now, Tennessee's averaged 29 points a game against the Bears, the Colts, the Ravens, and the Colts. Those are all pretty good defenses, all defenses that are better than the Browns. Take the Titans, give the 5.5 points. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So I just I look at this and I'm like, okay, how the hell are the Cleveland Browns 8-3?
Exactly.
It's like, how is that even possible? It is so bad that while you were talking, we had all sorts of video technical difficulties. So we apologize for those things. Our Zoom video could not handle this this discussion, I think. That being said, the Tennessee Titans are essentially the third best team in the AFC this year. They're sort of where they were last year. They're clearly better than Baltimore. We know that they're vastly inconsistent at times. We've talked in the past about the brainwashing of Ryan Tannehill and trying to convince him that he's a Pro Bowl style quarterback because he's just had a tremendous start to the year. Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach. I think you and I probably would both agree that we think Kevin Stefanski has done a really nice job with the Browns. Sort of considering that A, it is the Browns, and B, sort of the issues at hand on the player personnel side. So I look at this and I'm just like, I just can't handle a Cleveland Browns team that's 8-3 making the playoffs this year, Brad. I can't deal with it. And that's where we're at right now. And they should be a 5-6 team. They should be 2 games out of the playoff hunt at this point. Is Baker Mayfield? Does Baker Mayfield at this point deserve a massive contract extension? Was he worth the number 1 draft pick that he got? There's all this pressure on Baker this week to perform at a great level. I saw an announcer earlier in the week say, if Baker Mayfield doesn't perform in this game against Tennessee, he doesn't deserve a new contract. And I was like, well, what do the last 2 years, 3 years show you? Does it show you he deserved a new contract anyways?
I think it's just been a really, really good job by Kevin Stefanski. I mean, I think you could have to say that Stefanski should be in the running for Coach of the Year. And that's kind of hard when you got the Steelers sitting there undefeated and the Chiefs doing what they're doing. But, when you look at a team that lost its number 1 wide receiver, 4 or 5 weeks ago now with OBJ.
Yeah.
They've got Jarvis Landry, who is a guy that's on the backside of his career. He's had a nice career. He's a good possession receiver, plays hard, plays injured. But Stefanski understands that Baker Mayfield is not going to carry this team across the finish line.
Yeah.
And he has made it a point to run the football. Also in this game, too, you got Tennessee, who we've talked about a lot in recent weeks, and how terrible they are on third down defense. I think they're worse in the league. They give up a first down over 50% of the time on third downs. But I don't trust that Baker Mayfield can hit the broadside of a barn on third down. So That was another one of the reasons why I went with Tennessee in this one.
It's such a great Midwestern term there. I agree. I don't even think Baker Mayfield on third down could throw a football into the ocean successfully. Would be my version of that joke. Look, I'm going to go with Tennessee a little. I really like the job that Mike Vrabel's done. I really like the job that Kevin Stefanski has done. The reality is the Browns are probably going to either get totally blown out or they're going to be in it with 4 minutes to go in this game. I'm still going to go with the Titans in this one. Anyways, so Brad, moving on to my second pick, and it's a pick that is really dear to your heart, Brad. When I was setting up my picks this week, I was like, okay, there's some crazy big spreads in the National Football League this week, and I'm going to try to do a service here to the public. I'm going to try to look at those really big spreads and make some predictions off of them. The Kansas City Chiefs are at home against your Vic Fangio-led Denver Broncos. You got to give up 14.5 to take the Chiefs. I don't really need to say too much about this other than to say I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Hey, man, I've been hitting this train all year long. I'm going to take the Broncos. They got a great defense. They're playing at home, mile high. They know the Chiefs as well as anybody in the league. I think the Broncos are obviously very embarrassed after last week, what they had to do. They're fairly healthy. With Drew Lock back now, they got that running back a few weeks back, Phillip Lindsay. I just think that's a lot of points. And the Broncos do play solid defense. They played hard again last week. They lost just because, they had no offense whatsoever, but you couldn't blame it on the defense, who played really hard. So I just thought 14.5 was a lot. I'm going to take the Broncos.
All right, Brad. I'm going to give you a chance to change your mind. This game is actually in Kansas City. Well, does that do anything for you?
It just proves that I didn't pay much attention to the. You must have twisted the teams up when you put them into the box or something. You're screwing with me again. I know it.
Yeah, Brad's right. Sometimes I do that, but never on purpose, of course.
No, absolutely not.
Never on purpose. Yeah, look, Kansas City, as we all know, is totally loaded. Probably the best team in football. I think if we said the Steelers were going to be playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game this weekend, Brad, you would take the.
Well, I don't know. I mean, hey, look, the Steelers are undefeated. That's, they got a really good defense. Their offense has got some really talented young stars in Chase Claypool. I mean, I've seen some faults in Kansas City this year. Their defense is not perfect.
Yeah.
And, they can score in a lot of ways. And let's face it, they're, a Tyreek Hill injury away from becoming just a football team. Well, they'd still be pretty good. But, if they didn't have Tyreek Hill or, one of their main weapons, whether it's Travis Kelce or whoever it is, there's so much football left to be played. But I think Kansas City is a riskier pick right now than Pittsburgh, just because they're so reliant on the offense. Their defense is just not that good.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Hoiseth, you would be wrong. The correct answer would be that the Kansas City Chiefs would beat the Steelers with, everybody in their current health status. All right, move on, Mr. Hoiseth, to the next game, which I know is dear to your heart.
No, it's dear to your heart, actually. It's the Rams at the Cardinals, and the Rams are 2.5-point favorites in Arizona. That's an early game because the other game, the Niners are going to be playing in the same stadium, but they're going to have to play at night. I've been telling you all season long, Jared Goff is not a good quarterback. We found that out again last week. Los Angeles is 7-4, but they've been pretty inconsistent throughout the season on offense, primarily because of Goff. The Los Angeles defense has been very good in recent weeks. They're starting to figure it out. But they've been basically keeping this team afloat. It's one of the best defenses in the league, and now it gets an offense that's kind of sputtered quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. The Cardinals, they sputtered against the Patriots. They sputtered against the Seahawks, neither of which have elite defenses. Here's one thing that I really found interesting is the matchup between McVay and Kingsbury. Last season, McVay just destroyed Kingsbury in both matchups. The Rams beat the Cardinals 34-0 and 31-9. Those are pretty convincing numbers. I like that trend a lot, which has me taking the Rams and giving up the 2.5 points.
Yeah, Brad does a fantastic job prepping for this show, and commend him on all of his stats work in this one. Kingsley, right? I mean,
Kingsley.
Yeah, sorry. The head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. They are. This is one of those games that matters more to Arizona. They're slumping. They're sort of heading in the wrong direction. this is actually a game that matters more. We've seen a tremendous amount of inconsistency on both sides of the ball out of the Rams so far this year. And while I think the defense has definitely figured things out, going up against this potentially explosive Arizona Cardinals team that is desperate for a win, that's actually playing at home, giving up 2.5 points, or you get 2.5 if you take the Cardinals at home. This is a no-brainer for me, Mr. Hoiseth. I think you are absolutely incorrect, and you are steering the public in the wrong direction on this one.
Well, it's kind of odd that I would take a team quarterback by Jared Goff.
Yeah, I know.
To me, it's more about the coaches. And, McVay last year just owned Kingsbury in both those games. I think the totals on that were 65-9 or something. They beat them. That's a lot. And until that trend moves in the other direction, Kingsbury's a young guy. He's got a young team. They're a different team, obviously, with DeAndre Hopkins, and the quarterback's got another year under his belt. But that Ram defense is playing really well right now, and I just got a sense they're going to put a lot of pressure on that kid, Kyler Murray. If Murray he hasn't been running that much lately. I don't know if you watched their games. I don't know if he got dinged up. I don't know if it's that shoulder that he got injured a little bit. But that really is what makes him a difference maker. If he's not using his legs, he's not winning football games for the Cardinals because of his great passing skills. That's not what he is. His secret weapon is his legs, and he just hasn't been running the ball a whole lot lately. And so I see the Rams getting home a lot on him and causing a lot of problems.
Yeah. I think when I was thinking this the other day, if Kyler Murray were the Minnesota Viking quarterback, Brad, and how much better would the Vikings be? And the answer is maybe not that much. It's sort of a similar thing. We know Cousins plays better when you roll him out and you move the pocket, even though he's like a foot taller than Kyler Murray. And we know Kyler Murray struggles, inside the pocket. So, but there's just something about this Arizona Cardinal team that I sort of identified at the beginning of the year, and I said, look, there's the potential for three teams to make the playoffs coming out of this division, and and I still believe that. And if that's going to happen, Arizona's got to win this game this week against the Rams, and I think they're just going to be fired up to do that. And if you're going to give me some points, I'm going to say thank you, Mr. Hoiseth, and move on to another one of your all-time favorite quarterbacks that you love to bash, Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles are heading to Green Bay to do a battle with the Packers. I don't know what it's going to be like on Sunday, but I heard there's a lot of snow throughout the East Coast and the Midwest at this point. So that being said, you got to give up 9 points if you're going to take Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I could sit here and tell you all the reasons to go take the Packers in this game. I think what would be more interesting is telling you all the reasons to not take the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. This is less about the Packers. This is more about a completely depleted Philadelphia Eagle team that has a fantastic head coach that has done everything that he could possibly do to keep this team alive and well in the worst division in the history of the National Football League.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I don't know what the holdup is with taking out Carson Wentz. I don't get it. He looks like the worst quarterback in the league, and that's it's a pretty good year now for quarterbacks this year. We haven't seen a lot of really, really horrible years, but Wentz is separating himself every single week as the worst quarterback in the league, and you're sitting there with Jalen Hurts on the sidelines, who you drafted, and they'll stick him in there for like one play. I mean, at least give the kid a series. Give him a handful of reps so he can figure things out. Carson Wentz is just not getting it done. And granted, they've had a lot of injuries. Their offensive line's a wreck. What? And they got Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey's like, he's almost as old as you, Dave. I mean, this guy, he can't play in the NFL anymore. He looks like he's running in quicksand out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's so slow. And so this is an organization that, they seem to have a lot of problems right now. They got a really good defense. They play hard. You'll hear me say that a lot, Dave. They play hard.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. The Packers, like I said, no reason to overthink this thing. Kind of like I said a couple weeks ago when we compared the Steelers to somebody. I said, really good football team in the Packers, really bad football team in the Eagles. I'm going to take the Packers. I'll get those 9.5.
Yeah, I just so the audience and the public knows that if the defensive back plays 5 yards back on me and respects my speed, I could still pull off a 5-yard button hook successfully in the National Football League today. That's the one play I could still run today. And, of course, I would try to get out of bounds as quickly as humanly possible.
All right, next up on my list is the Buffalo Bills at the San Francisco 49ers, which suddenly has become a little bit more intriguing game in the Bay Area, even though they're not going to play in the Bay Area. The over-under in that game is 47. The game's been moved to Arizona as a night game as a result of the new COVID rule in the Bay Area, which is not going to allow the Niners to practice or play at home. It's a building, though, that Buffalo is very comfortable with. They just played there 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals. This game suddenly has more meaning this week after the 49ers beat the Rams, giving the Niners, along with the Vikings at 5-6, an outside shot at the playoffs. San Francisco, has suddenly gotten a little more healthy on offense. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, both those guys are going to play. But they can't keep guys healthy on defense. They just lost another DB as corner Jamar Taylor is now out for the year. To me, it all adds up to a lot of points, and I see this game going over the over-under 47. I'm going to go the over in this one.
Yeah. I was looking at this, and just great coaching in San Francisco on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I mean, they did a fantastic job. A quick note, though, to the city/county of Santa Clara. If you're not going to allow, Brad, the contact football to happen, then you shouldn't allow people to walk into a Target or a Kohl's or a mall, for that matter.
Well, are people tackling each other in those places?
Just,
or what? That's a tough area up there.
They're closer. They're closer than they are in contact sports. I mean, it's just I get it that we want safety and security and everything. And the truth of the matter is, people shouldn't be going into the stores anyways. With the way this thing is spreading. But I thought it was important to sort of point that out. That the double standard on this is pretty interesting. That being said, this game is just going to be a shootout, right? I mean, Buffalo is playing better on offense. They still have no running game, Brad. But it's just going to be a shootout. We don't know what's going to happen with the 49er offense. I was a little bit reluctant to go with the over on this, but I think, you take the San Francisco 49ers out of San Francisco, give them a home game in Arizona against the Buffalo Bills back in Arizona. You're just like, there's some revenge that Bills organization is going to be thinking about when they go back into the home of the world's very first ever Kyler. What was it? The Kyler Murray that we had a couple weeks ago.
Hey, ordinarily, you get a backup quarterback like the Niners have got going with Nick Mullen, and ordinarily I would say, well, it's kind of hard to go over. But the thing I liked about it is Kyle Shanahan really hasn't changed the offense. He trusts that Nick Mullen can run it. He might not execute it as well as Garoppolo or some of the other guys in the league, but I don't see them pulling in the reins
and
stopping the offense from running its normal from its normal, game plan. And
Yeah.
so 47 to me just seemed like a really low number. I mean,
Yep.
Buffalo can score, 30 in a heartbeat. You got a San Francisco defense that's, had a million injuries this year. And I just thought it seemed like a really low number. Hopefully I'm right.
Yep. I agree with you, Mr. Hoiseth. Moving on to my second to last game here, and this is the Bengals versus the Dolphins. Hey, Brad.
Yeah.
Did we at the start of this year predict that a certain quarterback in Cincinnati was going to get injured?
We did.
Did we not predict that? Did we not say there was no way in the world he was going to survive a full season playing in front of that offensive line?
Yeah.
And I think maybe we were both sort of impressed that Burrow lasted as long as he did. I think maybe that's one of the most impressive things I've seen in the National Football League all year. Was the fact
Burrow's durability.
Burrow's durability. I mean, really, in all seriousness. So you got Cincinnati, who's a mess, going into Miami. Dolphins are 11.5 point favorites in this one. I'm assuming Tua's not going to play in this game based on what I've heard coming into today. Brad, I don't know if you have any additional information on that. But Fitzmagic is absolutely going to cover this game against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at the Miami defense, which is pretty talented, and I look at a Cincinnati offense that's got nothing. I mean, they don't have much of quarterback. They don't have Joe Mixon. Their wide receivers, A.J. Green's not the same kind of guy he was. Giovanni Bernard was dinged up last week. I'm not sure if he's back or not. I just look at a Miami team that I think wants to put things back together. They've had a couple of weeks here where they looked a little bit suspect. Playing at home, not that means a tremendous amount in 2020, but I just think they're a far superior team to Cincinnati. They're playing for a lot more, and it's that time of the year where, as I've said, I'll take the teams that are playing for something versus the teams that are playing for nothing. And Cincinnati's got their quarterback, but they're going to have another high pick again this next year, and we'll see if they can put some guys in front of their quarterback so that he's, constantly not talked about by us next year in association with the local hospitals and MASH units, All
right. Mr. Hoiseth, move on to your last pick of the week.
Yeah, my final pick is the Giants at the Seahawks. I don't know why it's my final pick. I'm glad it's my final pick because I really don't like either of these teams that much. The Seahawks are a 10.5 point favorite, however, at home. New York's been kind of trying to keep things close to the best with Daniel Jones, but it seems like Colt McCoy is going to be the starter. Jones hurt his hamstring last week. They haven't officially ruled him out or anything, but if anybody out there that's had a hamstring, that's not a 1 week injury. It's not a 5-day injury. That's a couple weeks of walking around pretty gingerly. This line started at 7. It's now ballooned to as much as 11 in some places. And I think there's good reason for that. Seattle, I've mentioned this before. I still think they're one of the more protected teams in the league by the NFL, along with the Packers. Nobody gets more calls at home than Seattle. They're at home. The Giants, another thing here is the Giants lost one of their key guys on defense as Kyler Fackrell went down with a calf injury. So they're now short at linebacker. How do you spy on Russell Wilson without one of your top linebackers? That's a pretty tough thing to do. Yeah. It looks like a long day for the Giants to me, who are not a very good football team. I still think it's either them or the Redskins that are going to win that division, but I just don't think it's their weekend going on the road in a very, very challenging place to win Seattle. I'll take the Seahawks, and I'll give them 10.5 points.
Yeah. Hey, Brad, this is 2 first-place teams going head-to-head. One of those first-place teams actually has 4 more wins than the other one does. There's my stat of the week. 4 and 7 are the New York Football Giants, with the Washington football team right below them, and the Cowboys just a half game out of first place. Brad, my pick to win the Super Bowl is not out of it yet. I'm riding that until the very bitter end, as you should, Mr. Detroit Lions fan.
Hey, the good thing about the Lions being as bad as they are is we don't have to talk about it every week.
That's true. That's true.
You keep reminding me every single week that you picked the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. I'm enjoying every minute of this.
Brad's like, are the
Hey,
Lions?
aren't your Cowboys still in it?
They are. That's the problem. Your Lions are out of it. They've successfully done a bad enough job. They fired their coach. And the Cowboys are still hanging around. I mean, yeah, that's how.
These things are not parallel, though. Okay, I picked the Lions to win the NFC North.
Yeah.
You picked the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. That's like that's like 3 or 4 layers higher of bullshit.
Yeah, it is. No, it absolutely is. But that's also one of the reasons why they're not out of it yet. There's still hope. Hope is still alive. Look, you look at this game, and it's in Seattle, and it's the Seahawks. It's at home. It's Russell Wilson. Brad, you did an excellent job of sort of breaking down all the injuries on the.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Giants side of the ball. No need to repeat any of that at this point. I mean, yeah, take Seattle. I think you should feel pretty confident about it. Only thing would be if, Ingram somehow, puts up 200 yards receiving from his tight end position and scores 3 touchdowns in this game. Would I be worried in any way about going with Seattle in this one?
Hey, am I way off base on the Seahawks at home and the Packers at home thing? Am I way off base? It seems to me, and I talked to a lot of people about this, and I go, these two teams get more calls than any teams at home. I don't quite understand it. Am I just missing something? Do I have like some sort of bias against these teams, or is that something that you see as well? And what would happen if these two teams had to play in a neutral field? Who would get the calls?
Yeah, it's like Brad. Make sure you spend the rest of the week watching reruns of the X-Files on this one, but. Yeah, look, I always thought that there were certain, I agree with you, there are certain stadiums and certain cities that seem to get breaks. And I always thought, well, this should be the year, Brad, where you can prove that that's just not the case. Because a lot of times you've got the fans there in the stands sort of cheering things on, and you could sort of see a referee occasionally getting caught up in what's happening because of the fans there. But now with no fans in the stands, are you saying, Mr. Hoiseth, that Seattle and Green Bay, are you actually telling me that they're still getting calls in their favor?
Watch the game. That's all I'm going to tell you. Watch the Seahawks at home against the Giants. Tell me if I'm missing something. It's just every week. It just seems like there's 1 or 2 things that happen. And you go, what? Wait, what? How do you call that? But maybe that's just me. It's like a confirmation bias or something. I don't know.
All right, I will check it out. Okay, so moving on to our last game here of the top 10 games worth spending some money on for week number 13 of your National Football League season. Hey, so Brad. I can't believe what you're going to do on this one. I know what you're going to do on this one. I opened today's show by talking about how I can no longer ever trust John Gruden and the Las Vegas Raiders. I continue to say that. But there is one other organization in the world that I trust even least than John Gruden and the Raiders, and that is your New York Football Jets. I guess the only redeeming thing here is if you take the Jets, you get 9 points in this game. It's a game that's at home. The fact that Adam Gase is still the head coach, I have not talked about Adam Gase getting fired for 7 weeks. Brad, in the last 7 weeks, have the Jets won any games?
No, I don't think so.
No. They have not. They have not won a single game. I stopped talking about firing Adam Gase when they didn't do it after week 6. I've taken a break on it, and now they're like 0-12, and they're sticking with him. It makes absolutely no sense in the world. The Raiders will rebound over what happened against Atlanta and win this game by more than 9 points.
Well, I don't think so. I just don't think so. I mean, look, I don't.
You're like one of my kids. I don't want to go to my room, Dad.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Raiders are, look, they just got blasted by the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that's a team that this is a big game for them. Hey, look, this is an important game for the Raiders. They should win this game comfortably. But I've been telling you all season long, those Jets on defense play hard, Dave. And, they get the pride of San Clemente back at quarterback. Do those Jets and Sam Darnold. Hey, that offense, recent weeks, they've gotten all their wide receivers back. They're scoring a little bit more points. They're not good. They're terrible. But I don't trust the Raiders on the road at all. I mean, they just went on the road to Atlanta and they got blasted. And so, it's do or die. It's kind of time for the Raiders to put up or shut up. I really feel that.
Yeah.
And, at the beginning of the year, I thought they were still a couple players away. They had me fooled a handful of weeks when they played over their heads, beat the Chiefs, almost beat the Chiefs again. But then you go on the road and you lay an egg at Atlanta. And you just kind of wonder, what do we have here? I mean, is this team for real, or are they not? Another problem, Josh Jacobs is not going to play this week. Got an ankle injury. Jonathan Abrams, or whoever their defensive lineman is, Abraham or whatever his name is, he's out. Cleveland Farrell's out. I think the Raiders will win the game, but I'm not giving 9.5 on the Raiders. You're crazy. I'll take you can quote me on that.
No, look, I think you could say this is one of those games where you flip the coin either way. And we're both crazy for even, probably even playing this game on one side of the ball or the other. I just happen to think you're a little bit more crazy than I am, sticking with with Adam Gase and the lack of leadership and performance that he's put into place.
I will tell you this right now: the Jets have a better defense than the Raiders. You heard it here. They have a better defense than the Raiders have.
There you go, North America. Those are your top 10 games worth spending some money on this weekend. Hey, when you have a chance, do check out our good friends over at Heater, the big Heater app. You can drop in all of your picks against your spreads and then get your notifications throughout the weekend. Mr. Hoiseth, any final thoughts or opinions on this Week 13 that's in front of us?
Well, I put in my order for some little merchandise for our super fan.
Nice.
And so she's not only got Christmas coming up, but she's also got a birthday coming up next week. So happy birthday, super fan. Well, I guess I don't have to say it until next week. But anyways, so order that gear out there, get some merchandise, and watch some football. I don't know about you guys up there in Northern Cal, but it's still been pretty warm down here in SoCal. We even had more fires. So it doesn't feel like football season much, but nonetheless, I do kind of feel like we're going down the stretch of the season here. I heard Roger Goodell on that game on Wednesday talking about, the show must go on, basically. And, they had the big problems in Denver and Baltimore last week, but it seems like they've kind of gotten themselves back on the train tracks here this week. And so hopefully we can get through this thing, no big COVID problems, and they can finish up the season. Boy, it's tough out there, though. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of people having a lot of problems around the country right now, and we just wish them the best of luck with the holidays coming up.
Yeah, and all joking aside, I was talking about contact sports and Target and Kohl's and everything. Like, seriously, just order it online. Get your gear, just have them deliver it. Safety is should really be everybody's first priority. Look, if you have to go out and you got to go drive around and you got to walk around, do it when there's nobody. because this thing is totally sort of out of control here. So we certainly wish everybody a happy and healthy rest of their week for sure. Brad, that is it for this week's Gods of Odds show. Once again, check out the bigmighty.rip website for some really cool sports content, as well as it will launch you off, if you want, into our merch store, where you can pick up some Gods of Odds paraphernalia and some other things. For Brad Hoiseth in beautiful Southern California, I am Dave Dabbah in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out mighty.rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.